I am beyond thrilled to welcome Charles Koch to our fireside chat today. Charles became president of the Rock Island Oil and Refining Company in 1967, a business that his father started. Charles renamed the business Koch Industries in honor of his father, and over the last 50 years has turned the small refinery business into the second largest private company in the United States, with over $115 billion in revenue and over 130,000 employees around the world today. As impressive as Koch's overall growth is, I am struck by the company's success across many different industries and through many economic cycles. Koch now owns diverse businesses such as Georgia Pacific in pulp and paper, Molex, which manufactures electronics and fiber optics, Guardian, which makes glass and automotive parts and high-value coatings. But what sets Koch apart is its ability to create superior value by combining the capabilities of its diverse businesses across all these industries. This capability-driven approach creates opportunities that would otherwise not exist for an industry-focused company. In fact, we believe Koch's recent acquisition of Infor is an absolute game changer, both for Infor as well as the overall enterprise software industry. Probably the term unprecedented has been used too many times recently, but it's certainly a unique time here in the global economy. Whether you're talking about visibility, all the different variabilities in the economies, some businesses are thriving, some are struggling more deeply than they probably have in any economic outcome. Geopolitics are certainly fragile and evolving quite differently than probably most of us expect. So these are certainly unique times. And you've been able to navigate Koch through many different environments and end up really creating this amazing business. So as you think about these times as a business leader and someone who's done such a great job, what are the things you think about that make companies successful in this type of environment versus those that struggle?
Well, I think it starts with us having a long-term view rather than a short-term view, and always thinking of how we can be successful long-term by creating value for others, starting with our customers and employees. And so when we look at it that way, there's always uncertainty. So it starts with being prepared with that and recognizing that the future is unknown and unknowable. So the way we have prepared ourselves for that is focusing on building capabilities that will make us successful under a whole variety of conditions, which means having more flexibility, more optionality, more diversity. And so those are the things that we've always tried to do. And so the starting point is building capabilities that will enable us to create value with others, starting with our customers. And then finding the opportunities or the sets of customers for whom we can create the most value. And then as we do, not resting on our laurels, but recognizing the future is going to be different than the past, then continually improving and adding to those capabilities. And as we do, then we say, oh, with those capabilities, we can now pursue additional opportunities. And then as we start pursuing those opportunities, we realize, well, we need additional capabilities. So we add still more capabilities. So this creates what I've called a virtuous cycle of mutual benefit, where it's continual improvement and growth and diversity, which is a way is the way to deal with Schumpeter's what he called creative destruction.
I'm still an early student of understanding Koch Industries and what you've built, but one thing that has been very clear in the time that you guys have owned us is the power of the market-based management kind of culture, and you mentioned a number of the tenets in your response. And as you look at the success you've had in energy businesses, pulp and paper businesses, glass, electronics, it's pretty remarkable. And it feels to me like at the heart of that is this market-based management approach. And maybe worthwhile to spend a couple of minutes just explaining what that is for folks that maybe aren't familiar.
Market-based management came about because I was looking for something that I could learn that would help me succeed, help me be able to contribute. Market-based management is a philosophy based on the principles of scientific and social progress that have led to human flourishing throughout history. And at some point, as we kept adding these principles and concepts, we needed to codify it so all our employees could use this approach. And so we created a framework consisting of 5 dimensions that every employee uses or can use as a problem-solving tool or an opportunity-generating tool. And those 5 dimensions are vision, and our vision is, as I say, is creating virtuous cycles of mutual benefit, building capabilities that will enable us to create value for different sets of customers, and then continually transforming ourselves. Then the second dimension is what we call virtue and talents. And what that means is we found that to make this work, we needed employees who would create their own internal virtuous cycles of mutual benefit, as Maslow called this self-actualizing. That is being the best you can see. So what we do is we hire first on whether we believe an employee will be dedicated to our guiding principles, to what we call virtue. And that means being contribution motivated rather than negatively motivated. And then the second piece is we look for people who have a specific gift or talent that will enable us to create value. Then the third one is knowledge. By that we mean 2 things: building knowledge networks internally and externally. Then the next dimension is decision rights, and that follows Ricardo's division of labor by comparative advantage. And so what we try to do is, as we get these people with different talents, design a role that fits those talents. So we're not looking for people who have credentials or more education or even more experience. What we find, somebody who has a gift in a given area, they will outshine anybody who's been working on it years, because they will think of new things and see things a different way. And the other thing we try to do with decision rights is make sure that we're not doing it just by hierarchy, but have the decisions made by the people with the best knowledge. And so that's what we try to do, continually refine that so we can make better decisions quicker. And then the fifth dimension is incentives. And what we try to do is reward each individual according to their contribution to our long-term value. How well are we creating value for our customers? What's our competitive position? What's our culture? Are we building capabilities faster than our competition, and so on?
So we talked earlier about creative destruction, which is something you mentioned as a critical part of MBM. And probably there's never been a time where creative destruction is more enforced than what we're going through right now. And while it can make a lot of sense at sort of a macro level if you're running a business, where I think it tends to be the hardest is kind of at an individual level, or as a manager managing a small group. Going through that kind of change is very, very difficult. And we see this all the time. Customers moving from heavily customized software to cloud software. That involves a lot of change and to some degree creative destruction. So what advice would you have for managers or companies that are really working through change and struggling?
Let me define creative destruction, or I will use Schumpeter's definition. Here's the way he put it. It is not price and output competition which counts, but the competition from the new product, the new technology, the new source of supply, the new type of organization which commands a decisive cost or quality advantage and which strikes not at the margins of the profits and the outputs, but at their foundations and their very lives. So that's what we're talking about here. This is not life or death for us individually, but life and death for our businesses and our jobs. And so what we do to communicate this is get all our employees to understand that change is a risk for all of us. But not changing isn't a risk, it's suicide. It is a certainty that you are going out of business, and you are going to, if you're an individual employee, if you're not changing and improving and working on that every day, you're not going to have your job. Whereas if you take what you think are risks and you find a way to eliminate most of your job, because there's a way to do this more efficiently or to bypass, do it a completely different way. Here at Koch, you're not going to lose your job. You're going to be a hero. And okay, you eliminate your job, great, here's some more work. Let's find a way to eliminate this or do it much more efficiently. This is why that's so critical that the values start before the talent.
Another key tenet that you mentioned is the notion of mutual benefit. And that's something here at Infor we've really embraced. And I would say probably in software there's not enough focus on that, on us building software that helps customers, but then most importantly, those customers helping and creating innovation with helps us. So as you've thought about technology and invested in Infor, how do you think mutual benefit applies to companies like ours, and how might our customers benefit from us leaning more heavily into the idea of mutual benefit?
I think about mutual benefit every day. And we start with our own employees. Okay, we've added all this technology. Now how do we use it? Particularly, let's say, in operations where we have the most employees. Many companies use technology to try to better control their people. And we're the opposite. We try to use the technology to empower them, to let each one be more of an entrepreneur, to give them the models and the data so they can make more of their own decisions. What we need to do is better understand what will make our customers more successful, not just today, but in the future. And then build the capabilities to do that. And the extent we can do that and make our customers more successful, then we become more successful. So it's true mutual benefit. Mm-hmm. So this means we have to continually transform ourselves, and in this case I'm talking about Infor, to build more and more capabilities, invest, keep reinvesting, and build these knowledge networks so we know what's going on and we can draw on them.
Technology. This is an area that Koch's leaned into very heavily over the last few years, and not just with Infor, which is clearly a very large acquisition, but lots of investments in technology in a very broad way. What is it that got you more interested and more focused on investing in technology?
So we've invested almost $30 billion over those 10 years in technology. And it is transforming people's jobs, turning them on, enabling them to create their own virtuous cycles. It's transforming our operations to make it much more efficiently, transforming the value of our products as we build technology into our products, make smarter products and services, and so on. So it's transforming everything we do. It is central to everything we do. But we're applying it in the context of market principles of market-based management and virtuous cycles of mutual benefit.
We've got tens of thousands of Infor customers and prospects, and I've been asked a lot, what was it about Infor? You know, you've deployed lots of capital, there's lots of companies that you kind of have to choose from, but Infor is one of the largest acquisitions that Koch has made, and big step into operation and execution focused software. So what was it about Infor that piqued your interest?
Looking at it from afar, although we had been using Infor to some extent prior to that, So we knew they had good products, and that was the first thing that appealed us, I would say, is that their focus on having products and services more tailored to an industry rather than totally generic. So that was huge. And the other was their emphasis on the cloud. And then as we invested in it, we found real mutual benefit with Infor. That working more closely with Infor, they were helping with their enterprise software get more visibility into our businesses, our value chains. And on the other hand, we were able to help Infor because we have this philosophy called Koch Labs. We're in all these different businesses. So we work with technology companies to let them experiment in one of our businesses to improve their products, see what works, what doesn't, and improve it. And so we started doing that with Infor. For us to acquire it all, it came down to satisfying this requirement of mutual benefit.
You know, one thing that I think is probably worth pointing out that people maybe don't completely understand, and I get questions about a lot, is, as you know, we've got lots of customers that are hospitals or public sector entities or hospitality companies that maybe aren't in any industries that Koch is in. And so they wonder, well, what does this mean for them? And what's interesting is a ton of the innovation that we're doing in these Koch labs and this work with a number of Koch entities actually serves those customers just as much. And so, for example, a lot of the great work we've done at HCM or in Burst or on analytics has huge application for our hospital customers. And so those virtuous cycles really do spread out well beyond just the industries that Koch's in today, which is great. When you're not running a $100 billion company, you spend a lot of time thinking about how to make people's lives better and what we as a society are doing. Obviously, the events that are going on right now, from the coronavirus to social unrest to what's happening with respect to all of our economies, are creating all sorts of change. What might be the good things that come of that change, and what are the things that have you concerned as you look at all the change that's going on in the world today?
How much time do we have? Just kidding. No, but it just so happens, I just finished a book on this subject, and it's called Believe in People, Bottom-Up Solutions for a Top-Down World. And I wrote this one with Brian Hooks, who's the CEO of our philanthropy community, Stand Together. And we go through, that's what this book is about, to absolutely answer those questions and encourage more people to become social entrepreneurs. That is, go find what will really help overcome all the obstacles today of having a society of mutual benefit, where people assist one another rather than today we have most people seeming to want to hurt people they disagree with or hold them back. So what we see is that as a source of the problem is this top-down approach, rather than empowering people so everybody has the opportunity to realize their potential and have the best life they can. It's more to control them, make them dependent, and we take to heart Frederick Douglass's philosophy. I'll unite with anybody to do right and no one to do wrong. So we work with anyone who agrees with us on any issue. We disagree on the others, but let's work together on this one issue. And if we all do that, then we learn, well, these people who I thought were my enemies, they aren't all bad. I mean, they're trying to do, they just have a different approach. And so that's the hope, that this approach and the hundreds of social entrepreneurs and others that we're now able to work with, that we can show there's a better way. And that's the kind of society that will thrive rather than one that with a top-down approach disintegrates.
So Charles, thank you again for doing this. Really, really amazing content, and we're very lucky to have you today.
Well, thanks for having me, Kevin, and thanks for all the great work you all have done at Infor. We're proud to have you as part of Koch and hope we can continue to help Infor create more value for our customers and look forward to a great long-term, mutually beneficial relationship. Thank you all.